Hello and welcome to Multifamily Elevated. My name's Suzanne Hobson, and I am super excited to talk to you about vision, people, and execution, and how you can utilize this information to elevate you and your team and your experience in multifamily. Brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network, giving you the latest and greatest news and content across our multifamily sector. So let's jump in. Enjoy this episode of Multifamily Elevated and enjoy the climb.
Hello, and thank you again for joining us on the next episode of Multifamily Elevated. My name is Suzanne Hobson. I'm your host today, and I am very excited because I have a very special guest that I met at RentCon, and I am wanting to show her off to the rest of our viewers. I think she's got a lot to say, and without further ado, Kelley, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself, who you are, and what you're up to, and then we'll jump in.
Thank you so much. I'm Kelley Brine. I am the president of Rose Valley Management, and I'm going to feel really awkward if I have nothing to say all of a sudden.
Well, we know that that's not
No, that's not true. I could be quite gregarious, yes.
Exactly. Well, why don't we just jump right in? Because this, I think, will get into your experience, which is extensive. And I think you're on a new adventure, a relatively new adventure. And so I would like to dive in. I think, your career, it spans, some time in our industry. And I'd love to talk a little bit about, just some things that have, formed who you are as an individual, because I think you're exceptional. And so what were some of those pivotal moments that you had early on in your career where you're like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. This is who I want to be. Can you give us some idea of those pivotal moments?
Yeah, I think this is definitely a new adventure, but also a bit of a homecoming for me. Because where I started was in New York City, and it's where I've always most felt like home. As far as pivotal moments, I'm old enough to have had several, fortunately. I think one of the first was early on in my career when I became a partner of a family-owned business, which was not my family. So sometimes people would say that that's almost impossible to do. That was definitely a moment for me. The way I was able to do that was really by always doing the job that was above my job. It was doing the job that I needed to have had existed in order to be able to perform best in my job. I was never the type of person that waited for a career path. I kind of paved my own path. Another pivotal time for me within that same company was when I was tasked with leading the charge of our first ground up development. To be honest, I was kind of petrified because when the president of the company said to me, like, oh yeah, it was years we were working on it, because in New York, it absolutely takes years. But when he came to me and said, yeah, you're going to be interviewing all the GPs, you're going to be interviewing the owner's reps, like, I'm sure you can do it. And I said to him, like, I've never done this before, right? Like, you've known me for many years, I've never done this. He's like, you're going to do it just like how you do everything else. You're going to research the crap out of it, learn it, and you're going to execute, and you're going to be amazing. And I have total faith in you. I feel like that was pivotal because it taught me that there's nothing I can't do, that I could rise to the challenge regardless what the challenge would be. Like I said, I have several pivotal moments. Another one would be when I took a year off of work after working 16 years in New York City, having baby 3 and 4 at the same time, twins, not some other freakish thing. And my husband recently came back from war in Afghanistan. We had moved to Austin. Just moving outside New York was a challenge enough, but I figured I'm only going to be here for about a year and a half. I couldn't really start something new. I'm really the type of person that likes to stay in a job and build something. A year and a half didn't feel like enough time. And I thought maybe it'd be nice to try not working. I, like you, Susan, think I might never retire because I hated it. After 6 months, I thought I would go insane. I don't know how many projects I could create. it was a challenge. Everyone in my family was like, you should work. We think you're better at work. Um, so that was definitely a pivotal moment too, being like, oh no, I like working insane hours. That's part of who I am. And I think it's important to know that about yourself. Another pivotal moment was then when we moved to DC, I worked for a student housing company. So basically, they were a fund that was looking to create a management company that would be a vertically integrated company with the fund, mostly foreign investors. And previously, it was really most of the fund managing the buildings, and they had come to the conclusion that they needed someone with more of an operational basis to run this company and create this company. It was a very exciting 6 years. I've learned that there are really two different sectors of real estate in my mind. It's New York real estate and outside of New York real estate. And people say like, oh, senior housing, student housing. No. It's definitely inside New York and outside New York. They are totally different. I loved that job. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the people I work with. I was able to create something amazing with amazing people around me. It's never just one person that creates a culture. And it was very hard to leave. But about 7 months ago, the CEO of Rose Valley Capital had emailed me and asked me if I would consider taking the job as president of Rose Valley Management. And it was just, sometimes the stars align, right? Last, and I promise, final pivot. When I was already I moved back to New York 2 years earlier. I was doing the commute from New York City to DC, and it was hard, especially my husband was currently at that time deployed in South Korea, and I had 4 kids in 3 different schools in New York. So busy, I think, would be an understatement. And it was at a time that I was like, where is this going? I was questioning things. You never want to move too late. You never want to, make the wrong decisions. I didn't know, should I move back to DC? Even though New York is a passion project for me. It's a love affair with the city. I love New York. It's where I belong. Having lived in many different cities in the world, I know that I always belong here. And so when he contacted me, it was also at a contemplation time where I was wondering, like, do I make a change? And he had offered me this change that was a huge growth opportunity. The company is looking to expand tremendously. And the synergies it was just perfect. So pivot. And then
I think that's isn't that on a show somewhere? Pivot. I'm not sure.
Yes, that's from Friends. That's when
yes. Thank you. I needed. Thank you.
There's T-shirts made of it. You are
so good, so good. Those are some great pivots, actually, and it'll probably take our conversation in some different directions because I know that many people want to learn more about what that was like, especially when you spoke about the first one. Something that stuck out that you were talking about was how, you were about ready to do something you had never done before. And your boss said to you, you got this, you can do this. You're going to do it like you've always done it. And I think that's really important. Would you say that was something you're used to, that you see often? I'm sure you probably emulate it, but was that part of that? Just like opening a door there, like, oof, even if I fail a little, it's going to be okay. It sounds like that was a comfortable relationship in that way.
Yeah, I would say it was. And I also didn't give it the opportunity to not be okay.
Yeah.
Because I also owned my own mistakes. And I think that's something that's really important. And it wasn't enough people make mistakes all the time. Everyone's going to make a mistake. And I tell this to my team members constantly. That's okay. 1, you have to own it. 2, you have to fix it. Like, don't rely on somebody else to fix your mistakes. You fix them before even people know, but still own them. Like, it's a cycle that's really important for building things. And I had built up that trust in the relationship. I worked there for 16 years. And I had worked on that being a project almost forever. I was, like I said, I was always doing the job above me that didn't yet exist because I needed it to exist to be able to do my job, to be able to perform, to be able to, fulfill my goals that were already set. So I didn't wait for someone to say, I think you should do this. I just did it. And who's going to complain about you doing the job above them for the same price that you're doing your current job for? It's what I needed to do for myself and for the company.
Really, really good points. And it's one of my favorite sayings, just own it. And, if future leaders or emerging leaders or people that are trying to move into their desired position of more authority or more power, whatever that is, more responsibility, if they could learn that one thing, I think it makes a huge difference. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up. So with that, I wanted to talk a little bit. I know you've already been talking about your reflection on your time directing operations, but what were some of the key lessons that you learned, and specifically the difference when you were managing maybe a smaller portfolio, 1,000 units, to now over 10,000 units? I'd love for you to share that with us.
Yeah, I think, in regards to unit counts, whether you're managing 1,000 units or 15,000 units, a lot of the fundamentals are actually the same. They're just scalable, right? They start on a smaller scale and they grow. And your direct report number should almost always remain the same. There's still like a cap to how many direct reports you should have so that you know that you have touch points with those people. And then that, I think, disseminates down through the ranks. So whether it's a team, you have a team of, let's say, 50 people and you have 5 to 7 direct reports. That shouldn't change as you scale your business, but whatever you're giving them, you need to make sure that that's transferable down throughout an organization. And I think one of the things that has always been important to me as, whether it's a leader in a nonprofit or running a business or a parent or a friend, is to always lead by example, to do as I do, not as I say. That's something that's really important. And I think one of the things that I learned along the way, it happened a couple of years ago, when I went to visit one of the on-site teams, one of my direct reports had mentioned to me, just be careful, you can be intimidating. I was a little taken back by that because I was like, I don't think I'm an intimidating person. I think I can be goofy, I can be fun. I mean, I can be a leader. I never really identified myself as intimidating. And so I think she could tell I was a little insulted by that too. I'm intimidating. I have to worry about people being intimidated by me. But she said, it's not you, it's your title. It's not always, your title can be intimidating, whether you're the executive vice president or you're the president. People's roles and people's titles are intimidating. And that might sound something that's obvious, but that's something that wasn't always obvious to me. And I think that was really a learning moment. It made me approach those visits differently. Just this past time, this is coming on board with Rose Valley Management. It was the first time I had come on at the level of a president already being over the entire team. So everyone has existed before me. Previously, I've really built these teams. So it was an interesting experience. I really thought about that a lot when I went to go meet some of the on-site teams. How are they going to be viewing me when I come in? How do I get them to trust me as a partner instead of just, a superior, instead of just the president? I want to be more than the president. I want to be a coworker. I want to be a partner. I want to be somebody they can laugh with and talk to and relate to. And I think that's really important. And interesting story is my car rental place made that really easy for me because when I got there at first the CarPlay wasn't working. I'm like, this is for 15 minutes. I made this guy sit with me. You got to make this work. I need CarPlay more than I need wheels. I'm not flying blind here. Get me CarPlay. Couldn't get me CarPlay. He got me another car. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. CarPlay works. I'm like, this is great. As I'm driving there, I realized maybe it got in Maryland, maybe it got really dark outside. I don't know. I have full on tinted windows. Yeah. Entire car. I was this is unbelievable. But even with my first visit, I was like, as we went outside, I'm like, you're not going to believe this, like, pimping car I have outside. I swear I'm not a drug dealer. Like, and then, it was such an icebreaker with all of the different groups that I visited. It was helpful, actually, but you have to be able to, as a leader, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. You have to have humility. You have to be able to bring yourself to everybody else's level and don't expect them to meet you at yours. I think those are some of the lessons I've learned.
Yeah, those are some really great nuggets. I have a visual now.
I'm going to send you a picture.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
At night, it was really a challenge. I had to open my window to lean out to see. So, yeah.
Added to the visual.
Everyone loves the president with the drug dealer car. Great.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think you're right. And we talked a little bit about this at Retcom. Just the lack of people in the room like us, females that have become presidents of companies, and some of the learning moments that we haven't had yet that maybe some other of our counterparts with more experience have had. And so to have that insight, I think is brilliant. It's also a really great gift to the people that are listening, because you're absolutely right. People, despite what we think, how approachable we are, can be really, afraid and intimidated, whatever those words are that prevent them from, being engaged quicker, trusting faster, which all plays into, success and getting to the goal quicker, faster, cheaper, better, and with joy. And I think, you saying that it showed a vulnerability, and that is what is missing, I think, sometimes from leadership, is just, I don't think we should be sappy messes, but I do think when people can see us like we are.
Just to be authentic, right? To own your own mistakes and say, listen, I've made that mistake before. Like, let's talk about it. Let's workshop it a little bit together. Let's fix it together. So that's something that was always really important to me with anyone who worked for me previously as a mentor, is to always say, like, listen, you're going to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. It's important that you come to me, talk to me. And if you don't have the solution, let's come up with it together. But if you don't tell me, I can't fix a problem I don't know about. And then it only grows. So let's make sure that we are a team and we're going to work on it together. And I won't shame you. I won't embarrass you. That's not my style.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. Also the concept of, and I was introduced to this as well by a dear mentor in my career, just the safety of, we're going to get through this and we're going to work through this together. So let's go after it. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's fix it. And just to have that partnership, like you said before, big word, that creates that safety where people can think better. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday who's very much into health. He does all kinds of really crazy things, like, what did he call it? Free diving. He's into free diving. He's like in his 40s, I think. I hope so. He's old guy, so he'll come back and
cares about free diving.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that our lives? And he showed me this video of it, and it was terrifying. But he does these things to really challenge himself and to keep himself humble and grounded. And
you should try motherhood.
That's what we get to talk about. He doesn't have that. But he does have free diving and a couple of other really crazy things that, the mental health part of this is what he went to. I was thinking about, I was talking about mechanics with him and, organizational structure, that sort of thing. And he was like, yeah, but when people are in a safe environment, they just work better. And they have, the mental safety that, if it's not there, you can really see how that impacts a company, a team, with the results. And so even from a business perspective, looking at your team being really healthy, whole, and safe is just, it's in front of us right now, all over. So really great that you brought that up, and thank you.
I would agree. And I think we learned that from like a young age on soccer teams. I was on the first all girls soccer team in my high school, and it was a challenge. I learned soccer in a summer. I was the only one who had their last name on their ball, and that was really a lot of pressure. Because Brine was sponsored, like the camp was sponsored by Brine. I'm like, oh shoot, which wasn't my family, just to be clear. I could be, but you always learn, like, it's an old cliche expression. There's no I in team, but it is so true. There is no company that does amazing with just one awesome person and all of these people around just following blindly. It doesn't happen like that. You have to have the skill and the relationship building to have people want to work there. When people are happy and they want to do things, like my best projects, my biggest expansions was as a group where we all were all so proud equally of what we did. It's never been just me. It's never been just one person that pushes the ball forward.
Yeah, great. Good stuff. So why don't we pivot just a little bit, for lack of a better word? And I wonder how many times we can say it.
It's a challenge.
Right? It's a challenge. Let's do it. So at RetCon, I had the opportunity to be able to see you up on stage, and you were on a panel. And there was a lot of conversation, as there was all over that conference, on AI and integrating it into your operations with multifamily. And I thought you had a very different perspective than most. I think there's been this huge push to get it in, build the efficiencies, maybe shrink the workforce to affect the bottom line directly. And I thought your take was very interesting and almost a slight pushback. Not that you're not open to all of what's occurring to make the business better, but can you talk to us about what your current role has been in your company with AI integration or technology advancements and upgrades, and what your philosophy is on that right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere, right? So, especially previously, I was in student housing. Student housing, I think, not to insult multifamily, and this is a multifamily podcast, so is a little bit more tech forward because you're dealing with a younger demographic. I mean, I was definitely like the grandma of student housing, so it's a much younger demographic. But so, of course, they're a little bit more technologically advanced and are a little bit more tech forward. But within multifamily, I mean, we talked about this at the conference. I feel like AI is going to be what the internet was first it was like AOL dial-up, and everyone was like, ding, 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 whatever. I don't want to do the noise. But just getting online, it's like, hear it. I could actually still hear it in my mind.
Yes.
It's like PTSD. But AI is going to be integrated into everything. It's just going to be everywhere. And then there's so much overlap. Some of the programs all do the same thing, and you don't even know that the program does the same thing. So knowing your tech stack, doing a tech stack audit is absolutely essential. And I think it's okay to pivot. I think when things aren't working, make sure you don't sign many-year contracts. Sorry for all the sponsors. But you have to know when things are not working or it doesn't fit, cut it off where it is and try something else. But what we also talked about at RetCon, and us specifically, and then when other people had asked questions about where tech is going, is when it comes to rent collections, AI can't knock on a door. And AI is not going to ask you about your sick child. And AI is not going to ask you the name of your new puppy. And those relationships that are created by your on-site teams are absolutely essential, integral for growing that community that everybody is so searching for and in need of. People are on their computers all the time. They're talking to screens all the time. They want that personal touch and interaction, especially with something you call home, right? Home is where that comfort is, where that relationship is. It's even more important, I would say, in your home than in your work, because work is somewhat associated with AI and technology, but home should be based on relationships. And that doesn't mean that AI can't make us more efficient. That doesn't mean that technology can't make us more efficient. It absolutely can. It's a matter of dissecting where it's needed. How does it make us better? How does it enhance that relationship versus replace? And I think that's a really important distinction.
Yeah, I do too. And I think more forward thinking than maybe what we've been hearing. I call it on the circuit. but it is really, it may not be new, but it's almost a revisit of the importance of where technology and advancements of technology come in the process. And, I think what you hit on was that technology is the support to all the other things. It's the support to the people, it's the support to the business. But oftentimes we put it first and then we wonder why things just
Why
don't.
is it not working? Right. I just thought this person could make all these calls for me, and it can't. And actually, no, I take that back. It can, but can it do it effectively? It can be efficient. Is it effective? And that's a difference, because if you're calling somebody about your rent and it's past due, it's much better to say, hey, I saw you weren't feeling well last month. Are you still homesick? I noticed you're a day or two past the due date. Is there anything I can do to help? Maybe you don't know. Maybe you've been in a flu coma, as half the Northeast was during January, and you missed the fact that the first actually happened because you didn't know what day it was. And that's okay. I'm here to help. I can actually stop by your apartment and pick up a check. Or those things are relationships that you build. It's so much easier to say, are you renewing? I thought you guys seem like you were so happy here. And then are you buying a house? Maybe I can extend you for 6 months. These conversations aren't AI conversations. Those are relationship conversations. Those are relationships you've had because you've already met with them at our resident events, or you've seen them go in and out of the buildings. That's what counts. It's always the people that makes an apartment building, a community successful.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm we're both very tech forward and find, great use in creating efficiencies, and also for the end user, creating efficiencies and more frictionless, lead to lease, right? And resident experience. But I have to agree. And, some of my counterparts might call me like tomorrow and be like, what'd you do?
What if you ruined us? You ruined us.
Change your mind.
I'm not accepted. I'm not allowed in certain places. I'm banned from Redcon now. Forget it.
Right. Luckily, I got good pals. But, over time, my opinion has changed. And I think, COVID forced us into one area. And then, some have chosen to really work that and make that great. Right. But I have found that the people that are going to win the game are the ones that are, again, taking that holistic approach to all of their residents, not just one segment of them. And I think forcing people to to follow this one segment of technology or process or, whatever that is, I think is very difficult. And I ran into that with workforce housing in doing renovations and really, maybe implementing technology that was not there before and thinking, wow, you know what? Everybody's going to think this is great.
Love this, except we don't like using our phones, or we don't use smartphones, or, so don't get a lock that makes me unlock it from my phone because my phone's never charged, or I don't use it like that. So I think that drills down to the importance of knowing your community, again, having the right people, and then that pivots up to 2 points. Pivots up to leadership. I am a competitive person.
I see that. You're winning.
Right.
For now. Right now.
But it does talk about the leadership and coming all the way down to what's the most important. I'll say that to my community managers all the time. Like, this community better than I do. You tell me what they need, and they do. And having them involved in those conversations, that's something that we talked about at Redcon when they said, how do you decide whether to onboard a technology or not? And I say, you have to bring the right people into the conversations. You can't just make it an executive level conversation. You have to have the boots on the ground tell you what's happening. Like, trust them to know what's best as well, and to give their insights that they see that we can't. We're not there. They're there every single day. They know their tenants inside and out, and give them that level of responsibility to help be part of the decision.
Totally. You said something that, again, I think for developers, and we do have an audience of people that are, building and also investing in real estate. I think you just hit on something really important, and that is know the product, know what that market will bear, I remember, observing, over product, like advancing product or, expensive product, that it would not survive in the market. And so obviously you don't get the returns on that. That's one part of it. But the other part is you're not making anyone happy. Like that's not what they really want. And understanding what that is, to your point, I think new development is a little more challenging, but it shouldn't be with
You
all
have
the
to know the
technology
community,
that we
right?
have.
Know the community that you're going into because they're all different. I mean, I was talking about this just yesterday in our Pennsylvania portfolio. We have three completely different communities that want different things, and you have to be able to know that and talk to that and address that. You can't just look, you're doing a new development. You can't just like Google or chat GPT, like, what's the newest amenity that everybody wants? It's different amongst different communities. I mean, for student housing, the amenities they get, we were talking about this a little, it's outrageous. I was like, we don't have that in New York, in our best high-rise buildings. How do we have this in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, in the middle of cornfields? They have like these game rooms and amazing things. I'm like, this is outrageous. But
I know, I
you have
know,
to
I
know the
know.
audience, right?
Yes. Yeah. And again, to your point, knowing the product and listening to the right stakeholders, having the right stakeholders at the table. You said it. It's extremely important, which, I know we could probably talk technology all day long, but let's pivot and let's take another direction. And let's talk about where we're at with the industry today and some of the challenges, because I think it's different depending on who you talk to and what area of the country they're in as well. So, what are you seeing are like the top couple of things that are just in your face, like they're obstacles or they're things you're really having to consider and deal with right now?
Yeah, I think when it comes to some of the challenges facing just the industry today, I think affordability is kind of in the forefront right now. Um, Being able to balance costs while maintaining high quality housing is an ongoing challenge that people are having. Another is evolving expectations of residents. The demand, I feel like, of convenience, sustainability, and community engagement is constantly increasing. So, in order to tackle these challenges, leaders have to be able to lean in to know what they want long term, to be able to focus on smart investments, whether that's energy efficient upgrades or community building or leveraging technology to improve service. I think being a proactive rather than a reactive member of this or leader is, at the end of the day, what it all comes down to is the people that are there.
Talked a little bit about this at the beginning when you talked about some of your mentors, but we talked a little bit more about it when we were together and the importance of them. Can you talk a little bit about, or a little bit more about your experience with mentorship and what you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have had incredible mentors who have challenged me and pushed me outside of my comfort zone, as I've said a little bit in the beginning, that believed in me sometimes even before I believed in myself. I think their guidance has been invaluable in shaping my leadership style. In turn, I always made it a priority to be able to mentor others, especially women in our industry. I think encouraging open conversations and providing opportunities for them for their professional growth, for their personal growth, which is always intertwined with their professional growth. I think when you care about the individual, you it also brings out the best in their performance as an employee. Um, and I want to make sure those that aren't always heard have a voice in the room. I think it's really important as a leader to be the person in a large group conversation that speaks last. So you make sure that everyone is heard. And when you see somebody who hasn't spoken yet, just be able to say, "Do you have any thoughts?" without putting too much pressure on them. I think mentorship isn't just about advice, but it's about opening doors and creating opportunities for others.
Love it. Love it. And I don't know how you feel, but I surround myself with mentors. I mentor all the time. I find it so important and integral to my success over time. And, almost like the pay it forward feeling of wanting to continue to do that. And I know we're going to have more conversations in the future about just that, those opening of doors. And I look forward to that very much. I think we're at time, which just blows my mind. Now we have to pivot again.
Are we even? I don't know if I'm up one or we're even.
Beat you on that one, I think. No, I think we're even, Stephen, honestly. I'm not quite sure that anyone's winning, but I'll give in. I'll concede in this case because you're wonderful. But I would like to ask one last question, then you can tell everybody how to get a hold of you. But if you saw an emerging leader coming up and you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think I would have to say, be authentic, be engaging, and be insightful. But authenticity, I think, is number one. Just always be true to yourself, and I think the rest will fall in line.
Yeah, well, it certainly has for you, Kelley.
Thank you.
For sure. So, all right. Well, how can everyone get a hold of you? Because I'm sure someone's going to want to talk to you about something.
Well, I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm pretty active, as I'm sure you've seen. I say yes a lot. I'm in yes mode. So definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn and through our website at Rose Valley Management. I have my info on there, or you can email me at kbrine@rosevalleymanagement.com.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Kelley, so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure we will be speaking soon about so many things.
Like pivoting.
And shoes.
Thanks for tuning in to Multifamily Elevated, where we hope that you are inspired and ready to go, elevated to take on your next challenge in multifamily. So if you liked this episode, please subscribe, like, comment, and of course, share with your network. And don't forget that this was brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network that is also sharing the latest and greatest in trends, ideas, and content across our multifamily space. Until next time, keep elevating, and we'll talk soon.